Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network. And we have a big one for you guys. Been waiting to talk about this one. It is Marvel's latest feature film. It is Thunderbolts asterisk at the end of it. I am going to be one of your hosts for this episode. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined by Michael Peniston.
Hello.
As well as Vinny Albano.
Hello.
So much to talk about with this movie. Just came out last week. We're recording this on Monday. Gonna hopefully have it released ASAP. I might even release this tonight. We'll see. There's a lot to talk about with this one, gents. A lot. There's a lot that we have to discuss. We're gonna start obviously non-spoiler in this conversation for the people who haven't had a chance to see the movie yet, because we all saw it like opening. I don't know when everybody saw it. I know Vinny saw it earlier today as of this recording. When did you see it?
I saw it Saturday.
Saw it Saturday. Okay, and I saw it opening night. I saw it Friday.
Okay.
Broad thoughts though, Michael. There's been a lot of hype around this movie now after it's been released, but curious if it lives up to the hype for you.
Yes, it very much lived up to the hype. I feel like going into this movie, I didn't know too much about it, so that was where a lot of my excitement came from. It gave me like a Guardians feel, because going into that, I had no idea what to go into, and it ended up being one of my favorite Marvel pieces. And so, I was very much hyped for going into this film, and it lived up. I feel like this is a bold. I'm gonna say it off the gate, but I feel like to a degree, this is what the first Avengers movie could have or should have been to a certain degree. I still am a very, very, very big fan of that film, but I feel like the heart in this film, the found family trope that plays out in this film it's just so remarkable to me. I think there's still gripes, but I think that this is one of the best Marvel movies we've seen since Guardians 3 came out, and I think that the way that these characters come together and play off each other it's nothing like I've seen in recent Marvel films, and honestly even in some of the older Marvel films I could think of. I feel like there was just so much surprising heart to this film on top of very good action scenes and a very good story and certain twists and a lot. And so I think it lived up to the hype that I was going into. If not, it exceeded it even. I'm gonna leave it at that for now.
Okay. Vinny, what about you?
I am in the same boat. I might not be all too positive about Thunderbolts, but I am very surprised by the quality that was presented to us here. I really enjoyed it. I thought this was easily one of the best Marvel properties that I've seen in a long time. And I like, Mikey, that you compared it to Guardians, because in an essence, it really is so similar to Guardians, where you have kind of like very C-list, maybe even D-list heroes, and you're making them very enjoyable to watch. Before Guardians, not a lot of people knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy even were. And even if so, I've been told that the Guardians were never that developed as a group. But James Gunn came in, he added his own quirks, and it feels like this was the same case with Thunderbolts, but obviously with a different creative team behind it rather than James Gunn. But taking these characters that are relatively unknown or more just supporting roles in the prior properties that have come and building on it in a really unique way. I love the theme of the film, and I had a blast. I had a fun time.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing up the Guardians comparison, because I do think, I think this movie even has a harder job, because with Guardians, it's like, and I'll never let Scott Napolitano live this down, because I was right about Guardians. But the thing for me that made this movie even more difficult as a selling point is that, as Vinny just said too, like, they're C or D list characters, but we already know them. Like Guardians, it's like everybody in that movie was new. Everything was brand new. So you can go in with an empty, clean slate. A lot of the characters that form the team of the Thunderbolts are characters that, one, some people don't really care that much about. Two, if you don't watch Marvel TV or streaming, you might not even know about some of these characters. Like John Walker has not been in anything other than this and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So you wouldn't even, there would be a complete introduction, even though the character's already established. Like, so they have to really make you care about these characters. And you guys both touched on it a little bit, but I think that is to the heart of why this movie works so well, is because what they're able to do is they're able to make you care about these characters way more than going in you would think you would care about these characters. And you've both touched a little bit on the theme of it. Not to give too much spoiler in terms of the theme until we get to a larger conversation, but there's some darker material in this film. Material that Marvel has not touched on that much, or if they have, it's been quite a while since they've dealt with the repercussions of things that have happened in this world, in this universe, and the impact that it has on each of these characters individually. So without going into the spoilers, I know it'll be harder to do that, but dealing with that, Vinny, we'll start with you. I'll give you a minute to think about it, Michael. Vinny, for you, because it was something that I really loved about the movie, is dealing with those darker themes and an eventual character we'll get to that specifically, like, the whole identity of that character is based on that being half of their life. But for you, dealing with those darker themes, which you don't see as often in recent Marvel, how did you feel about how they adapted that to the screen?
Yeah, I really loved it. And I think I loved it probably more than most people, because I'm biased when it comes to filmmaking. When a theme hits me emotionally and when a theme resonates with me, something that I'm passionate about, I'm more likely to like that film more. Like, even if it is heavy-handed themes or heavy-handed messaging and whatnot. So I think I'm definitely leaning more towards a biased positive spectrum of the side of things. But I loved it. I thought that it grounded a Marvel property more than anything that Marvel has produced in a very long time, and it grounded it more than those previous examples. I could think of, like, you know, we just finished watching Born Again, Daredevil, and Daredevil felt like it wanted to be grounded, and it felt like it wanted to tell these big themes, but it ultimately failed. But in Thunderbolts, I think it succeeded. And on top of that, it felt like a Marvel property that actually had something to say and a heart to it. So that immediately, like, blows it out of the water, blows something like Captain America Brave New World out of the water by leagues. You know, so I really love the darker themes of this film and how they went about it.
Michael.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I love how, what's it called? You hit it on the nail with this film having something to say, which I feel like you said, like, we have not seen this for a while, honestly.
Yeah.
And what's it called? I feel like the one thing with the theme here that, first of all, I also agree that, like, if a movie can have, like, such a strong theme that just hits you like that, then that already will also sell me. But I also love when a theme will come out of nowhere, where it's like you won't really expect kind of going into it. And I feel like this one really, really nailed that one as well. Yeah. And I just felt like the themes here in this film were just so relatable to anybody. Like, you didn't have to feel like a superhero to, you know, like, go through what these characters were going through, particularly one character that we will get to. But not even just the one, you know, you saw how in times of toughness, we have to band together. And I'm sure we'll elaborate on more when we get more into, like, the spoilers and everything. But just like that theme, being able to see it be played out in a grand sort of plot, like a Marvel movie where you're dealing with superheroes. Not only that, but like an Avengers level type with like an ensemble like this. It hits really hard, and I felt like they handled this theme very well.
Yeah, and I want to comment on that again. That comment that you made about having these themes within you know, spandex wearing superhero movies. Right. That's why I love superheroes. Yeah. I got a feeling at very specific scenes in this film where I was reminded why I love superhero media so much. And it's the fact that you have characters like the Thunderbolts or Spider-Man that are so grounded and relatable and emotional that but it inspires us as an audience because they're superheroes. They're beyond anything we can imagine. They're so more resilient and strong than any of us in real life. Yet they still struggle with these same issues. And I just love that. I don't know. I'm having trouble putting into the words, but my brain, when I see like, it's so inspiring to me. Yeah.
Well,
really
you're seeing these again, these super heroic people be relatable to the human experience, and I think that is something that it all has to do with character. It has to do with the building of character, and why I think surprisingly you fall in love with a lot of the characters in this film, and you relate to a lot of the characters and what they're going through and the struggles and those darker themes. But it's hard to talk about this movie for so long without giving away spoilers. So at this point, I'm just going to say that I don't mean to speak for everybody, but we all recommend seeing this movie prior to hopping on the pod. And we know each other's base level thoughts. Go see this movie. Go see it in a theater. And so, so if you guys haven't had a chance to see the movie yet, or you don't, you care about spoilers, I should say, I would tune out now. You guys can pause the episode, come back to it, and return after you've seen Thunderbolts. But for now, we're going to jump into the spoiler part of our discussion. So you have been warned. We are jumping into spoilers. So let's do it. Let's start with a character that I just alluded to, who makes their MCU debut in this film. It's Lewis Pullman, who is the son of the actor Bill Pullman, playing Bob, simply known as Bob in the coming attractions. Second time he's played a prominent Bob in recent years. He also played a character named Bob in Top Gun Maverick. But more so, he plays the comic book character, the Sentry. And so the first thing off the bat, I'm sure you guys already knew this coming in, he was recast. It was not initially supposed to be Lewis Pullman. It was supposed to be Stephen Yeun, who we're all big fans of. He's the main voice actor in Invincible. He was the lead in Beef, which the director Jake Schreier had worked on and produced. And he had scheduling conflicts because of, I believe it was because of the strikes, that he had to fall out of the project. But Lewis Pullman came in. And I want to talk first, before we jump into the character, I want to talk about the performance. Because for me, this is one of the stronger debut performances that I could remember in Marvel. Like, we've had some big ones that have happened even on streaming. Like, I think Aman Vellani is great as Kamala Khan. Like, she's one that sticks out to me. Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop. Agatha Harkness is one that obviously sticks out to a lot of people. Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight. But this portrayal of this character was massive for me, totally worked for me, and I was incredibly impressed by him. And I haven't seen him in a lot of things. Maverick is one of the things I've seen him in. I've seen him in a couple other things, but I thought he knocked it out of the park and had a lot to do with the balancing act of Sentry. So first, the performance. Michael, starting with you, what you thought about Lewis Pullman's performance.
Yeah, sure. So this was my first time seeing Lewis Pullman on screen ever, honestly, on screen. I've heard of him. He is very much Bill Pullman's son. But it's in every characteristic that he kind of displays. But I was very, very, very impressed with this performance. I love Steven. I would have loved to have seen how that would have gone, but I think that this was the next best choice for sure. The thing with him, and like you said, you brought up all these characters, a lot of them being superheroes that have been introduced. That they've hit. But like in the grand scope of everything we've gotten Marvel wise, like they don't have like too much of like a, I don't know like the correct word. They don't stick with you too long, I guess you could say. But there's something about this character. I don't know if it's because we're seeing like 3 versions of this character in this film essentially, and he's playing them all perfectly.
It's a multifaceted role for sure.
Exactly. And not only that, but I was also going to bring up how like we're also getting a lot of these introductions of villains. And prior to this conversation, we spoke about certain little roles in films that have made the films a little better, like Christian Bale and Love and Thunder, which we know how that went. But the performance was still great. And so I guess it's crazy to have a character like this that comes in and pulls off such a heroic sort of like the fight scene of both all of them trying to go against him. I'm sure we'll talk about it more. But that was like just as Superman versus the Justice League as it gets, honestly.
Yeah.
But like to have that, but then also have like a Bob character in the whole beginning of this film, and like the kind of like dorky, not confident, not even truly knowing himself sort of character. And then to get one of honestly probably scarier to me than like Christian Bale's character in Love and Thunder, which was I thought one of the scariest villains we've got in a while, and that's to Guardians 3. This was like an absolutely terrifying villain. Like the Void was like actually like just I don't know everything to him. And I didn't know too much about Sentry prior to this character. I personally didn't even really know about. I knew like
I didn't either.
Yeah, like they were like hinting at like the Void being something with his character, and I knew there was something. I just knew of Sentry, but man, Sentry is a pretty dope character.
Yeah.
You know, layers. And so I think Lewis handled Sentry and all Bob, Sentry, and the Void just perfectly.
Vinny?
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's fascinating because I feel like we're getting so many big name actors being attached to Marvel products, and they're kind of all put on the same shtick, right? It's like you could play a charismatic, goofy, like, I'm going to say the joke now, I'm going to be brave now. But they portray Sentry's character here a lot more darker than... I'm not familiar with the character in the comic books. Like, I know of the character, I know how powerful he is, but I haven't read any Sentry comic books. But from my expectations of the trailer, it's so much more darker than I thought it was. And he tiptoes that line of darkness, but also being charismatic, you know, as his Bob persona. And it's really well done, and it feels unique in a way because, like I mentioned, I feel like all these new characters we're seeing are all the same Marvel shtick. Right? I think of the guy who's now the Falcon in Brave New World.
Oh, Danny Ramirez's character, Joaquin Torres. Yeah,
and he, like, no hate on him as an actor, but I feel like that's a perfect example of just having someone where it's like, can you say the funny, goofy part? Okay, can you say the charismatic part? But this is layered, and this is different, and there's an edge to it, but it's also so emotional. I love that.
Yeah, no, I agree with what both of you guys are saying. I think that it's in those moments with not only Marvel stuff, comic book movies and adaptation in general, where you can have these antagonists, because he is also one of the antagonists at a point in this film, where you kind of, not that you can justify their actions, but it like reminds you of like those things with like the villains that always stand out to me in Marvel property that, like, again, it's like they're good because the performances are great, but also like there's a level of justification to their mission. It's like Thanos, there's Killmonger, and Shang-Chi's father. His name is escaping me right now. But those characters in general for me are characters where I'm like, I understand your point. And even though Bob is a character that, again, can't recall a lot of his past in the beginning, when you start to peel back and understand the shit he's gone through as a character before he was the Sentry and before there was the Void, it's dark, man. Like, he did all these things to protect his mother, and he was abused, and he was a meth addict, and it's like, that's crazy. Like, for the MCU to do things like that and showcase that, transitioning into the Void, which is like dark, man. Like, when you get that first reveal of the capabilities of the Void, when he touches Yelena, when they escape the explosion in the opening sequence, one of the opening sequences, I guess, with everybody in the bunker, and you see this really messed up thing that Yelena had to go through as a child, and it's all due to his abilities. You're just like, how dark are we going to go in this movie? And they get darker. Like, as the movie goes on, and kind of saying what you were saying, Vinny, when I was talking to my friend PJ, shout out PJ, he's been on an episode on here, but we were discussing the sequence of the movie, and I was like, the last 45 minutes of this movie to me are like an A+.
Yeah.
Like, I have no gripes. Like, and it's been a long time since I've seen a Marvel project that I can't look at like again, that's not necessarily half the movie, but it's a big chunk of the movie where as soon as we get that introduction to the Sentry, I have nothing to complain about with the movie. It's so well done when they dive into those deeper themes, and to give the trust to Jake Schreier as a visionary to play that out in that way, and also trust in Lewis Pullman's performance to get so much out of that, and the other actors obviously as well. It's so great to see them handle something so serious. Yeah. And the capabilities and I guess the level of tension that we get and dark shit like that's really what it comes down to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like, especially with Sentry, I don't know. I feel like you said, you kind of said it before, there's so much to his past, and that they also perfectly unravel, I feel like, in this film. They do a really good job playing out memory, and like the perfect use of special effects in this film too, which I also wasn't expecting. Like, we almost got like a whole like Spider-Man, what was it? Like the whole Spider-Man 2 scene where he's like in his head sort of thing. Yeah. Like, but the way that they also unravel Sentry as a character and his past through that, and they like you said, they don't hold back. Like there's a lot of audio that you hear. There's times, like the abuse that he went through. The fact that he was a meth addict, like you said, like that's not, I wouldn't expect that, but it's so important to like the series of everything playing out in this event. So yeah, no.
It's also delivered as like a throwaway line.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And then when we get to, and it kind of plays for comedy, but it's like when you get the scene where he's like, I was a meth addict and dressing up as a chicken, like spinning around a sign. Yeah. And then they're getting their ass kicked by some chicken with a spinning sign. It's like so ridiculous. But, obviously a major character in this, but the juxtaposition of that is this movie's framed a lot from the perspective of Yelena Belova. There's another big takeaway I had from the movie. Curious on your guys' thoughts, Vinny. I'll start with you. But for me, Florence Pugh's performance in this is one of the best pure performances we've seen in a Marvel movie, maybe ever. Now, that might be high praise, but everything we've seen her in, like, she had a massive introduction in Black Widow for different reasons. Just totally embodied the character of Yelena, like, was able to play the comedy. She did a great job in her limited role in Hawkeye, I felt, in that Retribution kind of tour of kind of getting vengeance for Natasha. This, though, from the opening sequence, which, by the way, shout out, that's a real stunt. She decided to go to the second tallest building in the world and actually do that stunt. She had to fight Kevin Feige on it because he didn't want to do it because of insurance purposes, but he agreed. So she did that jump for real. But there's such a darkness, and there's again, now we're talking spoilers, this suicidal tendency and mental health in general being discussed in this movie that Florence does better than I think anyone's been able to do in Marvel. At least, like, the only other person I could think about that has done it to that level in that I could think is Downey, like, so far for me. But I'm curious your thoughts on how she handles that, Vinny, and the performance of Florence Pugh in general.
Yeah, I loved her in this film. I really did. I mean, the entire cast here, we'll get into more
every
detail.
member of the team.
Yeah, there was one person in the team that I was
I think we all agree on who it is, but we'll get to it.
Yeah, anyhow, Yelena, though, just beautiful. The scene with Red Guardian and they kind of have a moment where they split. They're like, we're losers, guys, and Red Guardian catches up to her, and they have that emotional heart-to-heart. I was like, damn, I'm actually like getting emotional here. And I think a lot of that has to do with Florence Pugh's performance and how well, like you said, she delivers that raw emotion. And it plays hand in hand with the theme that we mentioned, right? And the whole film. And I think that's like the beauty of filmmaking is when you have all these elements and they're working in great collaboration with each other. So the theme benefits Yelena's performance, but Yelena's performance also benefits the theme, or I should say Florence Pugh's performance as Yelena. And it's just beautiful. You have moments like that scene with Red Guardian or the opening where I'm like, whoa, this is a Marvel film, you know. It's we haven't seen it in a while, and it definitely brings us back to, like you mentioned, Robert Downey Jr. I even think of Ruffalo in the first Avengers when he's still trying to battle the Hulk, and there's that line where he says, I tried, you know, I put a gun in my mouth, and
the big guy spit out the bullet.
Yeah. So but now in the list of heavy hitters in the MCU, we can definitely put Florence Pugh up there, I think. I think she deserves to be up there because she demonstrated a huge range in this film alone.
Michael?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that she's a heavy hitter. She needs to be put up there for sure. She displayed that heart that we keep talking about in this film. I feel like a lot of it was her. And like honestly, obviously it was probably written her character to be a lot of that heart, because you see how she reacts to what's it called, Bob, at moments. Like she's like the one that's really kind of to like bring him in or at least calm him down, and then like at the moment where the team kind of unites to help him, like she kind of, you know, starts that. And so you can see that her character has a lot of heart, but like just the feeling of being lost that's in her character and having that be the root of it, I feel like was so perfectly executed in this film. And it was smart. Having her, even her first couple of lines be like her explaining her emotion and then comparing it to like being in a void, and then the series of everything else that we see with all these characters. It's just, it hit it on the nail perfectly. And you said it perfectly too, with like the theme like is honestly shaping a lot of these characters, but obviously these characters are also shaping that theme, and it's so crazy to see it. I think Florence Pugh, her acting in this is so brilliant. I think that it's raw, it's very emotional. There were a lot of moments that she had with a few different characters in this film, even some that I think were like really just like quick, but like still like they hit. Like there was a moment, we're bound to talk about this at some point, but like after the Taskmaster thing that plays out, there's a moment where
we're spoilers. Taskmaster dies very early in the film.
Yeah, we knew that one was coming. What's it called? There's a moment though after that, post that, where her and Ghost, I believe, are talking, and I think Ghost brings up like, oh, like the girl that I killed back there, and like there's like a really quick moment. It's so fast, but like she's still able to like really quickly touch on like, oh yeah, like that affected me too. You know, that was another thing, and it's like you see how much her character, and we've seen a lot of how much her character has gone through at this point, especially with losing Natasha, but you in this film you really see just like, I don't know, this breaking point, I guess, and it's something that you're right, you guys, we haven't seen before. The only, other than the ones you guys suggested, the only one I could think of that they tried to do it with, but honestly made a complete joke out of it, was Thor's character. And that was one where they really could have, with like everything he had gone through, and then they made it into like him losing, I mean, getting all the weight and like playing Fortnite, you know, like that. There's it's just like, I mean,
it's the way the Russos handle humor.
Yes, you know, right?
Or emotional weight.
Yes. It's just, I don't know. I felt like her character just displayed so much heart that I also wasn't expecting coming off of such gritty performances of hers in the past with this character too. It was really refreshing to see everything her character kind of poured out into this film.
I love how you guys are talking about too how the theme kind of affects the characters and the characters affect the theme, because if you think about it, every single one of these characters has a void. Like they're experiencing something that they haven't dealt with directly. Kind of jumping into the team dynamic, which we've touched on a little bit, but that is so much of this team. You've talked about the found family trope that it plays off of. And again, we are talking spoilers. We've already established that. We'll jump to the end in a little bit, but by the end of this film, it is established that these characters are the new Avengers. And we're bringing together all these island of misfit toys, essentially. And a lot of people said this is like Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad, which, like, it's a lazy comparison, but I can understand why. But all these characters are dealing with things. I mean, with Yelena, we've already touched on it. Bob, we've touched on it. With Alexei, the Red Guardian, he's a character that he, again, daydreams of these days of being a superhero again and being the symbol for his home country, and he can't represent that anymore, and he's ashamed of who he's become, even though he won't necessarily. He kind of kills you with humor. That's his way of dealing with it. I think Walker's performance is understated here. It was one when I came out of it, I was kind of a little back and forth on it. I'm a huge fan of Falcon and Winter Soldier. I know a lot of people don't like that show. I really happen to like that show a lot. And you see it when Bob is helped up by him out of the tunnel, but you see this, that he's so ashamed of what he did, even though what he believed he did in that series was right, by kind of honoring the code of his best friend, that he killed someone in broad daylight. And what he does have in front of him, or he had in front of him, isn't good enough for his life going forward. He needs to be the life of a hero, so much so that he gets abandoned by his family. And dealing with those themes, and of course, I'm sure you all are getting the hint that none of us are discussing Ava as a character, because she's the worst part of the team, which we can get into. But those points, I think, are a big emphasis. And then Bucky, obviously, we're dealing with the transition of Bucky being a character that's already had so much tortured soul in him throughout 5 fucking phases of Marvel. Just nuts. But now he's a he's a senator, and he doesn't know how to navigate that world as being a representative of the government. And he's so much so that, again, another scene they play for humor, but he's like pulling like government officials like behind walls and being like, we got to get this girl right now. And he's like, Bucky, handle it like a politician. He's like, read the books, we do it with law. And he can't deal with that, and so he has to go about it his own way. But so that dynamic you touched on in the very beginning of our review, Michael, I'd love for you to touch more on how it affected you in terms of the movie, as the movie went along, and that overall theme too of that found family and highlights, and if there are lowlights. Like I said, Ava, I think, is the obvious one, but
there's lowlights. There are. What's it called? I'm a sucker for found family trope. Like, if it hits hard, man, and this one hit hard. I feel like the dynamics that we got between these characters, and just like the storytelling, like how everything just fell into place here. It was so nice to see. There's something about these characters all like having like pretty much shitty past, that it's like, oh wow, like you almost want to see, like you want to see them win, and you're starting to see like a side of all of them that you didn't see in prior films because they played such a villain role. Like, and I think that's why Ghost is, I know I'm jumping into this quick, I think that's why she didn't hit as hard, because prior to this performance, Ghost, did we really learn a lot about Ghost and Ant-Man, so I feel like we'll touch more on that in a little bit, but I feel like what's it called? The dynamics here. Yeah, I just feel like they're perfect. Each one's 2 storylines, like their previous storylines, were so tough that it only made sense for one another to be able to relate to one another, to be able to find each other, to be able to be a support to each other, because it's very similar things, with like characters like Bucky. Not a lot of people compare him to Steve Rogers, but like they basically have like the same story, and like in terms of what they're looking for, very different. But I feel like they are still looking for something that they lost, or that they're trying to find themselves in this time. And for Bucky, it's a lot harder because of his past and being the Winter Soldier, and
now he's isolated.
Yes, 100%. And the whole Senator storyline too is it's funny to see it happen, but it makes a lot of sense. Knowing him and where he's 100 years old. Like, yes, obviously, like most of the senators are 100 years old. But what's it called? I even like a character like Alexei, and I appreciated him as like comic relief, but there was still heart there. For me, what really sold it was John Walker. I think it was cool coming off of Falcon and Winter Soldier to see him and Bucky be able to kind of like have this dynamic again, and that like it was, we didn't see too much of it then. It was more of, again, like a villain. It was like a hate sort of relationship there, but it's cool to see them be able to pick up the pieces. I have a few gripes because I think that some things don't make sense. But with John Walker, there were so many things that were left unsaid perfectly until it was needed to be said. Like there was a moment where you saw what's it called, Sentry, with his ability, and like he was literally on the edge. And going back to like the whole suicide like thing that you brought up before, like that's right there. You're seeing him almost like jump, like, and like I think Florence Pugh's character, what's it called, even like noticed it, and it was like a oh snap moment, like this character. But then again later when you find out what happened to his with his family leaving, and the little beat that you had between him and Yelena, where they kind of don't even say anything, but they kind of look at each other, like that hits so
it's an established
hard.
Understanding of loneliness,
right?
Yeah.
But like again, like only these characters and their dynamics could that have probably worked, you know? And so yeah, I'll leave it.
I mean, that was beautifully put.
Thank you.
Yeah, you basically echoed everything that I wanted to say, but better.
You want to talk about Alexi?
Yeah, well, I want to talk about Ghost actually.
Okay.
Because you know, obviously was the bad part. Because okay, Ant-Man the Wasp, I hate that movie so bad. And Ghost in that film, we get a little bit of insight within her relationship with Lawrence Fishburne's character in that film. But she wasn't good. No one liked her as a villain. You know, it was just like such a throwaway character. So seeing her being brought back in the advertising for this film, I was like, okay, but I believe in the creative team. This could be a redemption. And it wasn't. And that's what really disappointed me, because there was potential there, but we get nothing. We get literally nothing into Ghost's character. So, you know, she's going to return for Doomsday and all of that going on with the whole post-credit scene. So it's just a shame. However, just confirming what both of you guys have said, I didn't like Falcon and the Winter Soldier myself, but John Walker was the best part of that show, in my opinion. And John Walker in this is also one of the best parts. His dynamic with Yelena, like you said, Mikey, is fabulous. And Red Guardian. He's great. I mean, I don't really have much to say about David Harbour or the character.
I can transition into it because it's something that I discussed with PJ, and I'm curious because as a character, now I like David Harbour a lot as an actor. Obviously, for people, David Harbour plays Hopper in Stranger Things, who's also a huge fan favorite. This is a much different character than what he's doing in that series. But he's an over-the-top character. He's a character that's very in your face. He's very brash. But what I loved about his performance in this is that you do get those smaller, tender moments between him and Florence that really establish that father-daughter dynamic. And I love that she says, like, you weren't there. Like, she has that whole thing where she's like, you weren't there for me. And he kind of takes her back to when she was a child, when she was an innocent child before she has to go through the Red Room experiences. And he's like, you were the light that was brought into the room. And he's able to kind of help Yelena find that within herself. And I don't know if that works with any other characters, obviously. Like, I think Harbour does a good job. But I was saying to PJ, I was like, I really like his character, but I could understand the shtick getting old. I am curious for both of you if you felt that way. Because again, for me, it worked. I would say 90% of the humor I enjoyed in terms of his character. The last bit of humor we get with him in the post-credit scene, I was like, okay, it was all right. And we'll get to the credit scenes obviously later too. But more curious on your thoughts on the character of Red Guardian, because we're gonna get more of him. He's confirmed for Doomsday already. Is the shtick too much for you? We have the limo service. We have the whole scene in the limo. So I'm curious, Michael, your thoughts on Red Guardian as a character in this movie.
in the movie, I think that again he worked perfectly for the sake of the comedic relief. I think that the character is funny. Like there was a lot of funny moments in this film with the character. But I don't think the shtick will get old at any point. I think that I take that back. I think that it could. There's a chance it could, but the only way that they could make it not go that way is if they follow it up equally with like action and showing him like be like that superhero, you know, like if they could show that while also then making him like a comedy relief, almost like War Machine, if you think about it like that. Like I look at War Machine and Don Cheadle has so many funny just little one-liners, but then he'll get in the suit and kick ass, you know what I'm saying? And so like if they can kind of, and that's not the best comparison because they've milked this like the comedy scene with this character with the Let's See, but I think if you just balance it, it'll be fun.
Vinny, what do you think?
For me, I liked it in this film. I actually did not like him in Black Widow because, but I think the reason why I can like the shtick and I like the whole Red Guardian thing in this is because they're going back to the word heart, right? I know we've been repeating it constantly throughout this review, but it's there. And he's actually like a superhero in this. We see him save children and save lives. Also, something I have been missing from superhero properties of just like superheroes actually saving people. You know, like that's what I like to see. Yeah, it's cliche. Yeah, people are like, oh, it's corny. But what? Like, that's the whole point of superheroes.
Yeah.
Like, they're supposed to protect the weak and protect the everyday person. Anyhow. That's why I really liked Red Guardian in this, because you feel that he cares for Yelena. He even is bouncing very well off of Bucky and John and the chemistry there, and having him actually be emotionally resonant through a superhero lens of him saving people. So I could definitely bear it for this film. I shouldn't even say bear it. I enjoyed it. But if they take that away, I think it does get old.
I would agree. I think balancing the drama, the dramatic elements of his performance have to help elevate it, because like I thought about, you were talking about a scene where he saves a child. And he says to Yelena when we get the re-intro to his character when she goes and visits him, he goes, Yelena, the only time because she asks if he was happy. And he says, Yelena, the only time I was happy was when I was saving people in the streets of Russia. And then it foreshadows to him literally saving a little girl, which I think is a good way to transition into the fucked up version of how these characters disappear and the Void in general. Because I don't know if there's anybody else out there that did this, but if you are, write in the comments. I'm going to pack theater when I see this movie. I had a reaction to that. Like when she disappeared, because it's again, it's like the first time you're seeing something in regards to like a child in Marvel. Like we're seeing a child essentially like disappear, die, however you want to say it. But I literally went, oh, in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And then you just have this crazy sequence of the darkness coming over the New York, and people are getting erased, like literally erased. And the director Jake Schreier said that his inspiration for that sequence was the Hiroshima shadows, like of people dying from the Hiroshima bombings. Dude, we got to talk about this sequence. We have to talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable, and so different than anything we've seen in Marvel before. So I've just been going back and forth. I started with you last time, so I gotta start with Vinny this time. Vinny, seeing that on screen, like, what was your reaction to that? And again, the capabilities and the powers of the Void in general.
I literally gasped. And however, my theater was not full. I had a couple people, so I gasped, and then I was like, oh my god. no one else gasped. So like maybe I should shut up. But that was shocking, and I love the visuals of it. I love that, and going back to the theme, like this is such a well constructed for a corporate product, right? Because at the end of the day, it's Marvel. It is a corporate product for a very, corporate run filmmaking company. This is really well done filmmaking. You have backtracking on my sentence, going back to the theme, the visuals go back to the very beginning of the film. Setting up that emotional void, that emotional darkness, and you have that physically being played out, visually being played out. It's terrifying. I love that Sentry, when he becomes the void, is just silhouetted, and you see just the glimmer of the eyes, just ever so slightly. It's terrifying, and it's terrifyingly beautiful. That type of visual is some of my favorite type of visuals in media, because again, it's beautiful, but it's beautiful in a way of displaying such tragedy. So yeah, loved it.
Michael.
Loved it.
Oh man. Wow, how do I really get into it? So repeat like the first part of the question.
It was more so just about the fact that we were seeing something that we haven't seen in Marvel before. They were taking it in a direction and displaying, I guess, kind of how Vinny just put it, like tragedy on full scale. That's like right. We're seeing characters literally vanish within seconds as the darkness is kind of overtaking New York before we see our main team kind of go into the void.
Yeah. So I definitely was caught off guard by the route that they decided to take this. I don't know if I was if I was loud at any point, but I also for sure made a noise when I saw the little girl like get just like wiped. That was dark. Kids is always a dark thing in this world, because it's already such a fragile world with these characters. So I think that really hit, but it also did what it needed to do. It perfectly took me out of, like, it just brought me out of that moment like easy. And I think that was the intent. We were supposed to show that, and it made Sentry a little bit scarier, to be honest, too, just because it showed how ruthless he was. Yeah. And not only that, I think that going into the whole theme of it all too. Before I touch on that, shadow people is crazy. Like to see it actually played out, and like to see like all of these people just be like how simple and like when you saw the helicopter come into scene and like he just simply did it, and then you saw the crash that it proceeded to like just cause, I was really like, oh whoa, this is an Avengers level threat, and so I think that everything that came with it, but then again, to touch back on the themes, to know that all of these shadow people are then equally in their own head going through their own version of like a nightmare or like their own living hell sort of thing. Like there's such a layer to that, it's not just like, oh, you're wiped from existence. No, like you're wiped, but you're also trapped. And it's like, that's why I think Sentry is also just such an interesting character, because he's able to just easily put all of his own weight on everybody. And I loved how they had all of New York as like this whole shadow, because it almost represented that weight that was on him, like just dropping it on all of New York, and then everyone just kind of also picking up the pieces.
You could say it's the weight of the aftermath of Avengers still years later.
That's a fact.
Literally, which it's playing that parallel to the MCU and where we're at in the current time of the MCU. There's no team in place. There is no Avengers to rely on. They talk about it in smaller scenes throughout the movie, in like a court scene, and obviously playing into what Valentina's trying to do, which we haven't touched on Valentina at all. Which again, we can not to take away from what you were saying, but we haven't touched on it. And so Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, I guess this is like her fourth time showing up, and I think it's her fourth time in the MCU. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Geraldine Viswanathan. who comes in making her MCU debut as her assistant. Another recast role was originally supposed to be Io Adebri,
No way,
Oh.
really?
which it was not because of another scheduling conflict with the Bear. So interesting thing there. But Geraldine I thought was fine as Mel. I don't like Valentina. Now, I like Julia Louis-Dreyfus a lot. And I think that the way that the way they're having her character go about things is just not something that I'm necessarily. I need to know something more, and I feel like maybe part of it was what they were trying to do in Wakanda Forever by giving us more of a personal anecdote of her life. I mean, the fact that she used to be married to Ross is crazy. Yeah. But personally, I didn't think many of her scenes worked. I did like her scene with Bob when he first gets there, and she has a look of fear on her face. The first time you see a different ticking of Valentina to me. Yeah. But the character as a whole doesn't work for me. It's one of my negative things. Again, we haven't touched on many gripes on this, but it is one that stands out to me, and she's in a lot of the movie. Thoughts on Valentina? Either one of you? Anything to say? Or Mel?
I really, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about her, to be honest, because I think Dreyfus is a great actress. And I want to ask you the question. Is it that, like, you don't like the writing of the character, or do you like, because I hate her because she's like supposed to be hated.
Yeah.
You know,
because she's just annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's a good way to kind of frame it. I don't know. I don't know. It just it's a performance to me that still at the same time feels one note, but I don't know if that's because that's the writing of the character, or it's the performance.
Yeah, I don't know either, to be honest. But I think I lean a little bit more towards the positive side because she did a good job at annoying me. And
I thought this was her best.
That.
I do think this was her best performance as Valentina.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. It was the most, I feel like, not just of like the best we've seen of her performance, but I feel like it was the most we saw of this like sneaky side of hers. Like everything else has been kind of just like post-credit scenes, or like she'll pop up really quick and be like, "I'm working on something," and it's just like, "What
are you working on now?"
Right? And so like, it was cool, I think, to see her. I also was equally annoyed by her.
Yeah.
Like there was something about that last scene when, like, after knowing how sneaky her character was and everything that she did and how she was trying to take down the Thunderbolts, and then all of a sudden you got, and here are the new Avengers. And I was like, there was something about that was like yes, she had to do that and it had to be done, obviously, for the sake of the story. But I was like, you sneaky little, like what? Yeah. Like, wow, that was crazy. And so I definitely agree with you. Like, it's I forget the term you used, but it's very, like, I'm not seeing a lot with her character. It's very one-dimensional right now.
One note, yeah.
I think that there's room for them to play it out. I agree too. Like, she did a really good job annoying me. So like, that's what the intent was, then like, yeah, I think that worked. But I think that there's still maybe room to flesh out this character. I think that especially, I don't know when we're gonna like really touch on these after credit scenes. But
transition right into it after this.
Perfect. So then, especially with now knowing, and also coming off of Brave New World, knowing that how that ended with Sam Wilson wanting to revive the Avengers, I think maybe there could be something in that because she technically owns the new Avengers. You know what I'm saying? So like, we could see more of her character, and maybe eventually she ends up in prison. Who knows? You know, maybe that's how this.
Maybe she's at the raft.
Yeah.
Could be interesting.
That could be.
It's already been established there in the post-credits, the other post-credit scene.
Yeah.
Or the ending, I guess it is, of Brave New World is where he is.
Yeah.
That's the ending, right? Before, well, you already touched upon it a little bit. There's 2 post-credit scenes in this. First one is a fun one, but it's a throwaway, so we don't really need to touch on it. But we just get kind of all the marketing materials of the Thunderbolts on the Wheaties box, and Alexi gets his moment on the Wheaties box with his nice new handlebar mustache. Good for David Harbour. Doesn't have to wear that giant beard anymore. But the bigger one, don't know if this is new information to either of you. But that second post-credit scene that has massive implications on the future of the MCU, first post-credit scene in a very long time that actually directly leads into the next movie. But it was directed by the Russo brothers 4 weeks ago.
Ooh.
So Vinny didn't know that. Michael, you did know that. You're shaking your head yes.
Yeah.
So it gives you a little bit of a sense of the tone, maybe, of where we're going to end up in Doomsday. This is not a spoiler. If you didn't read all the backs of chairs, that's on you. But all of the characters in this film, in terms of the team of the Thunderbolts, will be in Avengers Doomsday. Filming just began on Wednesday. So we are officially in production for the next Avengers film, which is also the second movie coming out from this point. But the post-credit scene obviously deals with the next movie that is coming in July, Fantastic Four: First Steps. It's in my top 7 of most anticipated movies of the year. But we see the new team. We see the formation. We get information that Sam is suing the new Avengers team because of copyright infringement, because he's also starting an Avengers team. It also takes place, I think it's 18 months 14. Or is it 14 months after the conclusion of this film, which, Michael, you already touched on, is the introduction to the new Avengers team, which is the Red Guardian. It's Yelena Belova. It is John Walker. We have Ava, also known as Ghost, and the Sentry. Am I forgetting somebody?
Bucky.
And Bucky Barnes. The Winter Soldier. So from that point, they're talking about this, and then we see that there is they're getting a strong signal coming from space, and it is a retro futuristic ship that looks like it's coming in full speed at Earth, and it has a 4 on the side of it, and you hear that Fantastic Four theme. Big leading us directly into Avengers Doomsday. Vinny, I want to start with you because you didn't know that scene was directed by the Russo. So I'm curious your thoughts on that, the tone of the scene, and what was your feeling? It's the first post-credit scene, like I said, in a while that directly has a follow-up to the next film. So
yeah, I literally the thought that came into my mind was like, thank God, like this actually makes me excited. Like, it's not like the fucking Brave New World. Something is coming. And it's like every fucking Marvel property. Something is coming. It's gonna be big. It's gonna be really big. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be massive, right? So
that was great.
You know, but now we see the visual of this massive thing coming, right? We see it, and it's the Fantastic Four. And yeah, sorry. But it gets me excited. No pun intended.
knowing it's a scene that's directed by the Russos, and getting that sense of how they're going to take it with Doomsday, which we know obviously it has to deal with a lot of heavier themes, but we know that the Russos, I mean, in my opinion, I don't know about you, they're 4 for 4, right? In their work in the MCU. They've done Winter Soldier, Civil War, and the last 2 Avengers films. How did you feel about that sense in terms of the tone and things like that?
I could definitely feel it was different than Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
Like, I immediately was like, I heard it was filmed on the set of Doomsday, but I didn't know the Russos directed it. So it definitely, like, I can feel that. But the overall tone, I'm interested in, because at times it did feel a little, I don't know if it was because we were coming right literally in the same movie of a different director, so it felt a little like whiplash, so it felt off. Hopefully, like, the actual Doomsday doesn't feel off like that. It might have been, like I said, an effect of just watching Thunderbolts and then watching that, and it having that directorial whiplash. I have nothing really else to add though to that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of my gripes come from there, to be honest. But I loved the scene. It felt very Russo brothers. It did. It felt different for sure. I loved how they shot this. Like you could tell, like, oh wow, like we're getting some quality with Doomsday. All right. But it was cool to see the team a little bit more established. I feel like all their like new looks are very, very cool. I feel like it's really cool to be seeing the Fantastic Four. I think that it kind of confirms, I'm not going to say anything, but I think it kind of confirms some theories that people had for the Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah.
Which Marvel has lately been kind of, not on purpose, but kind of spoiling themselves a little bit. Like the whole chair thing to a degree was a little bit of a spoiler. When they revealed that, they showed that the Thunderbolts were going to be in it, then you knew
And Fantastic Four.
You knew that like all of them were going to then survive.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
except
like,
for Taskmaster.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Which is like not like a big spoiler, but it's like, oh, okay. So I mean, it was cool to see the Fantastic Four, and it clearly sets the stage up for a lot. You know, I like how they're the Avengers that are seeing them for the first time. It's very it's giving off like an Avengers it's giving off like an Avengers Endgame, was it? No, Infinity War, when Hulk fell from the sky and then came warning that Thanos was coming. It's almost like them coming to warn that something is coming.
Yeah.
And so I like that effect. But back to the team dynamic really quick. I like this team a lot. Like I like the dynamic, the dialogue that we got between them. Two of my gripes. Again, I don't really know Sentry, but I am kind of annoyed that we have this powerhouse of a character just chilling in the back. And like, is it just going to be like every time he tries to use his powers, then he turns to like, is that always going to be? And it's
going to be interesting.
Yeah, you know, and I think that is like a comic book thing. Like, I think that's just his, like the curse with being Sentry. But it's kind of annoying to know that like, oh, what is Lewis Pullman just going to be Bob most of the time? And I like Bob. I like him in this like the cast. I like the dynamic. But it would be cool to see like a character like Sentry fight with these characters.
Yeah.
Also, really quick, my biggest gripe of this all that doesn't make sense: Sam Wilson doing all of this stuff after becoming best friends with Bucky.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, aren't they like bros?
Right?
Yeah.
Right. We even got the moment in Brave New World with the two of them together. So why would he then like Bucky even said like they got in like a dispute over it. And I'm just, I get it, but I'm like, I don't think it would be like.
So I somewhat agree. I do think that a lot of their relationship has still always been that thing of like, it starts with like who's Steve's real best friend, and then it goes to who deserves the mantle of the shield, and now it's like who's the real person that's. It could be a government, again, like a political thing. It's like one of them is a political representative. Sam was somebody that was close with the president. That's now a Red Hulk. We don't even know who the president is anymore. Also in this universe, but I do agree. Like, I think a lot of my gripe with the post-credit scene is the lack of answers with Sam.
Yeah.
And it's coming off of Brave New World, which is one of the worst Marvel movies in recent memory.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of speculation that we could do with it. I do think that they are going to play on that a little bit in Doomsday. I think it's going to be a little bit of that Bucky versus Sam dynamic again, of like Bucky being like, well, I didn't want this to be like, I didn't make this happen. I was forced into this situation. It was a PR play. And now we're the Avengers. And then Sam's like, I was actually trying to do some good. And Bucky could always be like, well, you know, you didn't call me. Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic does play out. But I do think it's something that it's not as heavy handed. And I think not getting enough exposition with that is going to be hard for people, because you're like, they're Steve's two best friends. Like they're hanging out at the end of Endgame. Like, what are we doing here? But there is some tension throughout their journey on screen together. So I think there's more to be seen with that. But
I agree. I think there's more to be seen.
We have to have a larger conversation about it. We will be back. I want to have. We could schedule it, but I want to do we could do a future episode discussing on where we could go and things like that. But
we need a
but that's kind of the post-credit scene. Exciting, gets us leading into Doomsday, leads us into Fantastic Four's first steps. Yeah. But at this point, we've been rambling for a while. And I think it is time for us to give scores finally.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll go first.
Okay.
I toyed back and forth with a couple different scores for this film. It is not a perfect movie. It is not a top 10 Marvel movie of all time, in my opinion. But I do think it is one of the better entries they've had in quite a long time. Post Endgame, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is still a huge one for me. Rocket as a character is one of my all-time favorite characters in the MCU, so I can't put it above that. But I think it's neck and neck with Deadpool and Wolverine, and Deadpool and Wolverine serves a different purpose within the MCU in general, and really in terms of just like buoying Marvel back up to fun times. This movie is not necessarily fun all the time, and I think that's why it benefits overall as a film. So I've gone back and forth on a couple scores, but I have finished on an 8.5 for Thunderbolts is where I land. I think it's a really, really good Marvel movie. It is also the first Marvel movie in a while. Like Deadpool and Wolverine I wanted to go see again because I just thought it was one of the funniest movies I've seen in a really long time. This is the first Marvel movie in a really long time that I'm going back to see it because it has the implications that it has going forward, but also I want to spend time again with this team that means something to me where they didn't mean something to me coming into the movie. So I'm excited to see this movie again, and I highly recommend it to anyone that's not only a fan of the comic book genre, but I think it's a really good movie for a lot of people. So Michael.
Okay. Good score. Good score. I feel like in comparison with your list, but not in contrast also, where you had Guardians versus Deadpool versus Wolverine, I would compare this movie with a Guardians 3 type movie. I thought, and I was a huge fan of Guardians 3. I think it was one of the last good things Marvel put out, and since this. And so, what's it called? Though there is something about this film that I don't know if it was the theme. I don't know if it was just coming off of not having something like this for a while. I truly really enjoyed this film. I also think that this is gonna start. Hopefully, I know we say this every time a good Marvel project comes up, but looking at the lineup of what's to come, I do think that this is going to be the start of now not only connecting a lot of things, but also some good Marvel projects again. And so, again, the hype was there. I truly love these characters. I'm excited to see these characters again. I am going to give it I would say Guardians. With certain films, I'm going to say this first before I say the score. With a lot of these films that are coming out nowadays, I'll watch it a second time, and I realize a lot of these movies are bad, even if they're good. Deadpool and Wolverine was kind of a bad movie, and I will say that. I enjoy the hype with it, but I'm going to give this a 9.
Okay.
Ooh.
Vinny.
Wow. I'm going to be the lowest, actually. So, yeah, I'm giving this a solid 8.
That's what I figured you'd like.
I enjoyed a lot of it. I do think, stuff like, I mean, Taskmaster needed to die, but like the fact that the character is just gone, Ghost, I know I didn't touch on this in the review, but I actually wanted a little bit more of a more climactic fight with Sentry. The Void stuff was great, but like Sentry, when they're in the top of Avengers Tower and they're fighting him, I thought it was going to be a little bit more climactic than it was. And I thought that was a really underwhelming beat for me personally. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I did. And finally, I'm excited for more.
Let's get excited for Marvel again.
Yeah.
Let's get excited for Marvel again. We still got some more Marvel stuff coming for you guys for the rest of the year. There's a lot of Disney Plus series coming still, which we'll get into when we have another episode discussing the future of Marvel and the MCU, plus obviously Fantastic Four First Steps. But let us know in the comments, what are your guys' overall thoughts on Thunderbolts, asterisk, New Avengers? For sure, please don't be those people spoiling the movie in the comment section. don't be those people. Try to be nuanced with your thoughts, but also be excited for the future of Marvel, because we'd love to have a conversation with you guys. You guys can hit us up on social media. We're everywhere. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on Threads, obviously here on YouTube. We want to expand the community. We want to have these discussions. So please feel free to let us know your thoughts. Give this video a like if you guys can, and hit that bell to subscribe to us. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and your guys' support is a big part of the reason why we're still doing this. This month is 2 years since we formed Culture Wave Media. So thank you guys for being a part of that journey with us, and continue to enjoy our content and let us know if there's anything else you want us to cover. But we've really enjoyed discussing this movie with you, and we're looking forward to the future of the MCU again. So just signing off, I'm Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Michael Peniston.
And I'm Vinny Albano.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.